You are going to fail miserably, but after you do, I hope you bounce back. Now, how would it feel to have someone say that to you? How would it feel if that someone was Jesus? Well, Peter can tell you what that feels like. Go back with me to the Last Supper. During that conversation, Jesus said to his disciples, "You will all fall away. I'll be arrested and taken away and killed, and you will scatter and hide." Jesus said to Peter in particular, "You will deny me 3 times." He told Peter that Satan has requested to sift you like wheat. Now that imagery brings to mind the wheat after it's been harvested, broken down to the small pieces, and then it's sifted. You separate the grain from the chaff, the good from the bad. It's a request that Satan made regarding Job. I want to test the man's faith. And now Jesus forewarns Peter, your faith is about to be tested. We'll find out if it's strong or weak, if it can stand the test, or if it fails. Jesus said to Peter, "Now I've prayed for you. I have prayed that your faith may not fail," though he's already predicted that it will. He said, "Now when you return, strengthen your brothers." That is, I'm praying that you don't fail. I believe that you will. And I have prayed that after you fall, that you will then return, that you'll be strong once again, and in turn you'll strengthen those around you. Now let's return to that beautiful morning on the shores of the Sea of Galilee. 7 disciples have just had an evening of fishing. Now they're having a great breakfast and a reunion with Jesus. I expect that was a great time for those 7. Well, not all 7, for 6 of them. I can't imagine Peter is in much of a celebrating mood. I imagine Peter as a bit more subdued than his usual. After all, he's the one that sat there in the midst of all the apostles and said, "They may fall away, but I will not. They may deny you, but I will never deny you." And then he did it. 3 times he denied Jesus. I can imagine a Peter who has been humbled by the shame, sitting there quietly now. That's not typical Peter. And imagine head a bit low, eye contact, no, turned away. After all, he had looked at Jesus the moment he said that third denial. The rooster crowed, and Jesus looked across the courtroom and caught his eye. And now I imagine Peter has a hard time looking eye to eye with Jesus. As he sits there, I'm sure he's trying to act normal, but he's not quite normal. And thus Jesus spoke to Peter. He said, "Simon, son of John." Now that's not good, because that's his more formal name. Simon Bar-Jonah, Simon, son of John. You're calling out a person's full name, you know they're in trouble. That's what parents do, teachers do, when they want to get someone's attention. That's your verbal clue. He said to Peter, "Do you love me?" The way he said it the first time was, "Do you love me more than these?" He doesn't fill in the blank for us. We have to imagine, Peter may have had to imagine, "Do you love me more than these?" There they are sitting with that fresh fish. There's the fishing they did all night. So that's your old life. Do you love me more than your old life? Maybe that's what he was asking. Peter could say, "Yes, I do." Or there's the other disciples around him. "Do you love me more than these fellows do?" Now Peter had said, "They may fall, but I won't. They may deny, but I will not. I'm better than them." And now the question is, so do you love me more than they love me? And all Peter can do is just simply say, "Lord, you know that I love you." He'll ask him a second time, this time a little more pointed. He doesn't ask you, "Do you love me more than these?" He just says, "Do you love me?" Well, Peter answers, "Yes, you know I do." Jesus asked a third time. Why 3 times? It looks like it's corresponding to the 3 denials. That's how it seems to us. Probably how it seemed to Peter. He mixes it up just a bit. He uses the word agape, which is the kind of love that God wants us all to learn how to do. It's that strong love of will that we do for everyone. He'll use the word phileo, which is a more personal, "I really, really like you." He'll throw both words at Peter. Even so, as he puts it out there, Peter does the same answer every time. "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." Now Peter was a bit annoyed by that third time. He didn't like being asked 3 times, "Do you love me?" He's already answered the question, why does it take 3 times? It's as if Jesus doesn't trust his words. Sure, that's how Peter felt. Of course, if Peter remembers, he did give his word at the Last Supper. I will not fall away. I will not deny you. You can see how much Peter's word was worth. So yes, Jesus will question him once, twice, 3 times. Let's hear you say that again. Now, each time that Jesus asked and Peter answered, Jesus always had a follow-up. The first time he said, I want you to tend to my lambs. The second time, I want you to take care of my sheep. The third time, feed my sheep. Now, when you step back and watch that conversation, you can tell there is something uncomfortable going on here. I'll tell you what it is. With Simon Peter, you have a wounded soul that needed to be restored. And that's what Jesus is doing. He's practicing restoration. First, he starts with a gentle rebuke. He reminds Peter of what he did wrong. You denied me 3 times. Now, you think about it, that makes sense. If you want to fix a problem in your life, you have to first acknowledge you even have a problem. You can't acknowledge the problem. You can't own up to it. You can't really fix it. And if you've got a strained relationship with someone where you can't hardly even look at them and talk to them like the old days, you better get that out in the open. You see, when there's an elephant in the room, you might as well talk about it if you're going to fix the problem. Jesus started with a gentle rebuke, and then he moved to an encouraging word. I want you to take care of my sheep. And that gave a call to action. A call to action. It's time for you now to do something, Peter. Get back to work. He'll close out by saying to Peter, I want you to follow me. Now that's got to be words that just ring true for Peter. That's got to sound good. Follow me. Because that's the very words Jesus used in his initial call for disciples. There were 4 fishermen on the shores of the Sea of Galilee, Peter, Andrew, James, and John. And when Jesus came upon them, he said, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. And now he repeats those same words he started with 3.5 years ago. He's telling Peter again, follow me. You see, with those words, that Peter was being officially reinstated to his service and his fellowship with the Lord. Or if I could put it a different way, all right, Peter, it's time to get over it, and let's get back to work. And that had a lasting impact on Peter. Peter's going to serve Christ faithfully for the next 30 or so years. And about 30 years later, when he wrote the epistle of 1 Peter, he says to the leaders of the church, he says, I'm going to remind you what Jesus told me. You are to shepherd the flock that God has given you. You're to feed the sheep. Now, Jesus closed out this conversation in an interesting way with a prophecy about Peter's future. Jesus said to Peter, now when you were younger, you used to gird yourself, that is, pick out your clothes and put on whatever you wanted to wear, and you would walk wherever you wished to go. That was the freedom you've had throughout most of your life. But when you grow old, there's going to come a day that you'll stretch out your hands and someone else will gird you. Now that's not because you've got a manservant who dresses you. No, you won't be able to choose what you want to wear. You'll be told what to wear. And you won't be able to go where you want to go. Someone will be telling you where to go. Now what Peter is being told is that this is the way your life is going to end. You're going to go from freedom to prison. And even worse than that, as John explains, that this was to signify what kind of death Peter would glorify God. See, Peter was going to die the death of a Christian who was arrested and killed because of his faith in Jesus. Now, church tradition tells us that about 30 years later, under the reign of the Emperor Nero, Peter was arrested and crucified, upside down by his request, not worthy to die in the same way that his Lord died. Now, it sounds like you're ending the conversation on a bad note, with some sad news. No, not for Peter. For Peter, that actually sounded pretty good. A confidence boost. Because what it implied was that he had years of faithful service ahead of him, and that one day he'd have the privilege to die as a witness to Christ. Remember that Greek word witness is martyria. That became the word to describe those who testified for Jesus. It cost them their lives, but they refused to give up. They refused to recant. They died as faithful witnesses, as martyrs of the faith. So for Peter, that's a great ending to this conversation. Another way to put the conversation, I imagine it this way. It's as if Peter was to say to Jesus, I'll try. I'll give you my best. And Jesus said, you'll do better than try. You'll be great. and you're going to make me so proud. Well, that's the message that Jesus gave to Peter. Yes, you are going to fail. Failure happens to any of us, but at the same time, you can always come back. And I pray that you will come back. Now, that's a message any one of us could take to heart. All of us need to learn that lesson. You see, the right words at the right time turned a broken man into a mighty saint. And if Peter could be restored by Jesus, perhaps there's hope for any one of us. You can't change your past, but you can move forward and make a better future.